I am 71 years old, and for 34 years I have carried a secret that violates every oath I took as a Federal Bureau of Investigation special agent. In 1989, in a forgotten corner of Olympic National Forest in Washington state, I conducted an interrogation that never appeared in any official record. The subject was not human. The testimony he gave was so disturbing, so fundamentally horrifying in its implications about our species, that I made the decision, God forgive me, to bury it completely. I destroyed evidence. I falsified reports. I lied under oath. I violated federal law and my own conscience because I decided that some truths are too dangerous for humanity to know about itself. What the being you call Bigfoot told me during 6 hours in a makeshift holding cell wasn't about his species, it was about ours. And after hearing it, after listening to him recount in broken English the things he had witnessed over decades of watching humans from the shadows, I understood why his kind hide from us. Not because they fear being captured, because they are horrified by what they see us do to each other when we think no one is watching. My name is Robert Mitchell. I spent 28 years with the FBI, specializing in violent crimes and missing persons. I was good at my job, methodical, rational, skeptical of anything that couldn't be proven with evidence. I didn't believe in ghosts or monsters or conspiracy theories. I believed in facts, forensics, and following the evidence wherever it led. Which is exactly what led me to that impossible interrogation that changed everything I thought I knew about the world and our place in it. It started with the missing children. Between 1987 and 1989, 7 children vanished from small towns around Olympic National Forest. Not together, spread out over 2 years, different locations, no apparent pattern. Local police treated them as separate cases, runaways, custody disputes, tragic accidents. But I saw something they missed. I saw a pattern in the disappearances that suggested something more organized, more deliberate. A predator working the edges of civilization where people were isolated and law enforcement stretched thin. I requested assignment to the case over my supervisor's objections. "Mitchell, there's no federal jurisdiction here," he said. "These are local matters. Probable runaways. You're wasting Bureau resources." But I pushed. I made the case that if these disappearances were connected, we were looking at a serial predator crossing state and federal land boundaries. Eventually, they gave me 3 months and a small team. What we found was worse than I imagined, and completely different. The children weren't dead. We found them. All 7, alive, living in a cave system deep in the most remote part of the forest. They were dirty, scared, but physically unharmed. And their story was insane. They claimed they had been rescued by a giant, hairy man from bad people in the woods who were doing terrible things. They described their rescuer as being over 8 feet tall, covered in dark hair, speaking in broken English, bringing them food and keeping them hidden until the monsters were gone. I thought we were dealing with a mentally ill vagrant or some kind of cult situation. But the children were consistent in their descriptions, even when interviewed separately. And there were physical traces, enormous footprints, impressions in the cave dirt from a body far larger than human, and most disturbingly, evidence that the cave had been deliberately fortified to keep something out, not keep the children in. Then we found the bodies, not of children, of adults. 4 men, all with criminal records for child exploitation and trafficking, dead in a clearing about 2 miles from the cave. They hadn't been shot or stabbed. They had been killed with bare hands, necks broken, skulls crushed, bodies showing trauma consistent with immense force. And the tracks around the scene. God, those tracks. Footprints measuring 22 inches long, stride length indicating something bipedal and huge. The local sheriff wanted to call it a bear attack. grizzly wandered down from Canada, spooked by campers, killed them in a defensive rage. Case closed. But I had been an agent for 15 years. I knew what bear attacks looked like. This wasn't that. This was execution. This was deliberate killing by something intelligent enough to track dangerous men through dense forest and strong enough to snap human spines like kindling. I made the decision that would define my career. I was going to find what did this, find him, and question him. My team thought I was crazy. Bob, there's no him. It's an animal, a bear, maybe even the vagrant the kids described. We got the kids back alive. The traffickers are dead. That's a win. Let's close it and go home. But I couldn't, because deep in my gut, where instinct lived before rationality killed it, I knew something impossible was out there. Something that understood right and wrong. Something that had saved 7 children and killed 4 monsters. Something that needed to be brought in and questioned, because if there was one thing my career had taught me, it was that witnesses, no matter how unusual, always knew more than they initially revealed. So I stayed, sent my team back to Seattle, requested 2 more weeks, claiming I was tracking additional suspects, and I went into that forest alone, armed with a tranquilizer rifle borrowed from Fish and Wildlife, a portable camping setup, and the absolute certainty that I was either about to make the most important arrest in Bureau history or completely destroy my career. I found him on the 9th day, or rather, he found me. I woke in my tent at dawn to find him standing at the edge of my camp, motionless, watching. He was exactly as the children described, massive, covered in dark brown hair, face that was neither human nor ape, but something ancient that predated both. But his eyes, Christ, his eyes were human, deeply, undeniably human in their intelligence and sadness. I should have been terrified. Instead, I felt the same way I did when interviewing suspects who were relieved to finally confess. He wanted to talk. He wanted to be found. "I know what you did," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I know you saved those children. I know you killed those men, and I need you to come with me and tell me why." He tilted his head, studying me. Then in a voice like stones grinding together, he spoke. "You want truth?" "Yes," I said. "That's all I've ever wanted." He nodded slowly. "Truth will destroy you." "Let me worry about that." And so began the interrogation that would haunt me for the rest of my life. Getting him to cooperate was easier than I expected. He didn't run, didn't fight. When I explained that I needed him to come to a secure location where we could talk without interruption, he simply nodded and followed. Not like a prisoner, like someone who had been carrying a burden for too long and was finally ready to set it down. I had prepared a location, an abandoned ranger station about 15 miles from my camp, far enough from civilization that we wouldn't be interrupted, but with walls and a door I could secure if needed. It wasn't a cell, but it would do. I radioed false coordinates to my supervisor, claiming I was following a lead on additional trafficking suspects. Technically, I wasn't lying. I was following a lead. I just wasn't mentioning that the lead was 8 feet tall and covered in hair. The hike to the ranger station took 6 hours. He moved through the forest like water, silent and fluid despite his size. I crashed along behind, my FBI-issued boots and gear making noise he somehow avoided, despite weighing probably 400 pounds. He waited for me when I fell behind, never complained, never spoke unless I asked direct questions. And when I did ask, "What's your name? How many of you are there?
How long have you been watching humans?" he would respond with single words or short phrases in that grinding, painful voice. "No name. Few. Always." We arrived at the ranger station at dusk. The building was in bad shape, roof partly collapsed, windows broken, decades of forest decay creeping in. But it had 4 walls, a relatively intact back room, and most importantly, isolation. No one would stumble across us here. I set up my recording equipment, A tape recorder, notebook, camera, standard interrogation protocol. He watched with interest, reaching out once to touch the tape recorder with a finger as large as my thumb. "Recording?" he asked. "Yes, I need a record of what you tell me." He made a sound, not quite a laugh, more like air escaping under pressure. "Record. That you destroy, like all truth about us." "I'm not going to destroy anything," I said, believing it then. "I'm going to document everything. Make sure people know what you did, that you saved those children." "Saved children," he repeated, settling his massive frame onto the floor since there was no furniture that would support him. "Yes, from your kind, not my kind, your kind." And there it was, the first crack in my worldview. The way he said, "your kind," wasn't accusatory. It was sorrowful, like a coroner identifying a particularly ugly cause of death. I sat across from him, positioning the recorder between us. "I need to ask you formally, did you kill the 4 men we found in the clearing?" "Yes." "Why?" He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Because they were doing what humans do when they think no one watches." "Which is what?" Another long pause. "Hunting children. For pleasure. For evil. For things I have no words to describe. Things your kind invented. Things we never imagined until we watched you." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. "You're saying you witnessed them abusing children? For weeks. Watched them take children, hurt them in ways—" He stopped, and I saw something remarkable. His massive shoulders shook. He was struggling with emotion. "We have young too. We protect, we teach, we love. We thought humans same, but watched your kind long time, centuries, and learned you are not like us. You hurt your own young for pleasure. We never understand." I swallowed hard. "Not all humans." "Enough humans," he interrupted, and there was an edge to his voice now, sharp, angry. "Enough that in every generation, in every place, we see it. Men who hurt children. Men who hurt women. Men who kill for pleasure. Men who destroy because they can. Always it is men. Always your kind." This wasn't going where I expected. I had assumed a simple narrative. Creature witnesses crime, creature intervenes, creature needs to be studied and protected. But he wasn't just a witness. He was a historian, an anthropologist of human evil. "How long have you been watching?" "I? 24 winters. My father, all his life. His mother, all her life. Back and back and back. We watch, we document, we remember. Because you forget. You do terrible things, then forget. Build monument to your heroes who did terrible things. Tell stories of your greatness built on bones of murdered peoples. We remember. We watch. We know what you are." "And what are we?" I asked, not sure I wanted the answer. He leaned forward, and I fought the urge to recoil. His face, so close now, was ancient and sad and certain. "You are the species that destroys everything, including yourselves. You are not top predator, you are disease. You spread, consume, destroy, move on. And worst, you know. In your heart, you know, but you do it anyway." I thought I was there to question him. I was wrong. He was there to indict my entire species. And over the next several hours, he would present evidence I couldn't refute. I spent the first hour trying to maintain professional distance, treating it like any other interrogation.
Establishing timeline, motive, sequence of events. But this wasn't a normal interrogation. This was something closer to a deposition from a witness to all of human history. "Walk me through what you saw with the traffickers," I said. "Start from when you first became aware of them." He shifted his weight, the floorboards creaking under his mass. "Full moon in spring. Heard screaming. Child screaming. In woods where no children should be. Went to investigate. Found place. Cabin. Hidden. Old hunting cabin. Inside, men. 3 men. 2 children. Boy. Girl. What they were doing." He stopped, closing his eyes. "No words in your language. No words in mine. Not mating. Not teaching. Something else. Something broken." "Sexual assault," I said clinically, though my stomach churned. "That word too small. Not big enough for what I saw. They had built place for this. Had done this before, many times. Had pictures on walls. Pictures of children. Many children. This was business, pleasure, religion. I do not understand. Never understand. But I watched." "Why didn't you intervene immediately?" "Learned long ago. Humans see us. Humans scream, shoot, hunt, kill. Humans more afraid of us than of their own monsters. So we watch. Only intervene when alternative is unthinkable." "What changed?" "4th man arrived. Brought 2 more children. Said others coming. Said they would document, take pictures, sell pictures. I know these words, know what they mean. Had seen before, in other times, other places. Know this evil does not stop, spreads, like infection." He opened his eyes and looked directly at me. "So I made decision. Your kind will not stop this. Your police too slow. Your laws too weak. Your justice too late. Children would die, or worse, live with what was done. So I acted." "You killed them?" "First, I took children, in night, one by one. They were drugged, sleeping. Carried them to cave, safe cave, old cave, hidden. Then," he paused and something like satisfaction crossed his face. "Then I went back for men. And I made sure they could not hurt anyone again." "You could have just detained them, could have tied them up and called the authorities." He made that sound again, air escaping under pressure. "Could have, yes. But then what? You arrest, you trial, you maybe convict, you put in prison, where they live, eat, eventually free, eventually hurt again, or others like them hurt while you debate and process and follow rules they do not follow. No, I ended them permanently, as I have ended others." My blood went cold. "Others? How many others?" He thought for a moment. "In my life, 14 men. My father, 21. My grandmother, she lost count. Over centuries, many. Always same. Men who hurt children. Men who hurt women. Men who kill for pleasure. We see them. In your wars we see them. In your peace we see them. They think deep forest safe. Think no one watching. They are wrong. We watch. Always watching." I realized with creeping horror that I was sitting across from a vigilante serial killer, but one who only killed predators. One who had been operating for generations, maybe centuries, protecting the vulnerable from the very worst of humanity. "You're telling me your entire species has been secretly hunting human predators?" "Not hunting, witnessing, and sometimes, when necessary, removing. We do not seek violence. We hide from you, avoid you. But when we see what we see, sometimes we cannot remain hidden. Sometimes moral duty exceeds survival instinct. Who gave you the right to judge us? His eyes hardened. Who gave you right to do what you do? No law, no right, no permission. You simply do. Because you can, because you want, because your kind believes everything exists for your pleasure. Animals, earth, each other. You take, you hurt, you destroy. We only take when taking prevents greater taking. I had no response to that.
Because he was right. In my years at the Bureau, I had seen what he was talking about, had walked through crime scenes that defied comprehension, had interviewed victims whose suffering was so profound that I had to go home and drink until I could sleep, had arrested monsters who looked like accountants and teachers and priests, had learned that the worst predators were often the best at hiding in plain sight. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Why reveal yourself now?" "Because," he paused, choosing words carefully, "because time's changing. More humans, less forest, harder to hide, harder to watch. Soon, no place left for us. Soon, all forest will have humans. All places will be seen. All secrets will be found. And when that happens, when you find us, you will either kill us or cage us. We know this, accept this. But before we gone, wanted one human to know that we saw, that we witnessed, that we remembered what you did when you thought no one watching." "You want me to, what? Tell the world?" "No, world will not listen. World will hunt us, will make us specimens, will use us to distract from own evil. No, just want you to know. You who hunt human monsters, you who see what your kind does. You understand. You carry burden of knowing. Thought you should carry burden of knowing too, that something else knows too. The testimony of your crimes exists beyond your own accounting." He reached into a small pouch I hadn't noticed before. Woven plant fiber, worn with age. From it he pulled something and placed it on the floor between us. A notebook, handmade, bound with leather and sinew, pages of bark and pressed plant material. On those pages were drawings, crude but clear, scenes of violence, scenes of abuse, scenes of murder. And beside each drawing, scratched in something dark, blood, charcoal, were marks. Dates, I realized, not in our calendar, but in tallies, moon cycles. My grandmother's testimony. 143 drawings, 143 humans doing evil to other humans, each one witnessed, each one recorded, so someone would know. I stared at the notebook, my hands shaking. This was evidence, not just of his crimes, but of ours. A historical record of human atrocity compiled by a witness we didn't know existed. Why show me this? Because you asked for truth. Because you said you want to know. Because you are police, FBI. You hunt bad humans. So you should know how many bad humans there are. How many we see. How many you do not catch. He was right. The clearance rate for violent crimes was around 60%, meaning 40% of murderers, rapists, child predators walked free, never caught, never punished, never stopped. And this being, this impossible witness, was telling me he saw them, documented them, sometimes stopped them. And I had no idea what to do with that information. We talked through the night. As the hours passed, the interrogation became something else. A confession, perhaps, but not from him, from me, from my species. He told me things I couldn't verify, but somehow knew were true. Told me about massacres he had witnessed in the 1800s, settlers murdering indigenous families for their land.
Told me about lynchings in the 1920s, men in hoods killing black families while calling it justice. Told me about bodies buried in the deep woods throughout the 1950s and 60s, women who disappeared, children who were taken, victims whose cases went cold because no one cared enough to investigate. "You know what humans do best?" he asked, as false dawn began to gray the sky outside. "You make evil normal. You create systems to excuse it. Say, following orders. Say, protecting our way of life. Say, boys will do boys. Say, didn't mean to. Say, she was asking for it. Always, always you make excuses. We watch, we see, and we wonder, how can species be so intelligent and so evil? We're not all enough," he said, cutting me off. That word, all, humans use when they want to avoid responsibility. Not all men, not all white people, not all police. True, not all, but enough, always enough. Enough to fill mass graves, enough to destroy forests, enough to change climate, enough to kill planet. Enough that, in any gathering of humans, at least one predator, at least one who would hurt if he could. We know, we watch, we count. That's not fair. Fair? His voice rose for the first time, a sound that rattled in my chest. You speak of fair. Your species enslaved millions, murdered billions, destroyed thousands of other species, changed atmosphere, poisoned water, cut down forests that took 10,000 years to grow, and still you speak of fair. We are 8 feet tall, stronger than 10 men, could crush human skull like egg, and we hide from you, like mice from cats. Why? Because we know what happens when you feel threatened. You do not just kill threat, you obliterate, you genocide, you nuclear bomb, you salt birth so nothing grows. That is what you do when you feel threatened. So we hide, even though we are stronger, even though we are older, even though we were here first. We hide, because we know what humans are. I had no defense. How could I? I had seen the files, had studied history, had investigated crimes that demonstrated exactly what he was describing: the casual cruelty, the systematic violence, the capacity for horror that seemed unique to my species. So, why not just leave? I asked. Why stay where we are? Where to go? Humans everywhere now. Every island, every forest, nowhere left without humans. And, he paused, and something like sadness softened his voice. We remember what you were before. Before what? Before agriculture, before cities, before property, before greed. We remember when you were like us, when you lived in balance, when you took only what needed, when you honored Earth, when you honored each other. We remember because we were there. We walked with first humans, taught them which plants heal, which animals share willingly, how to read stars, how to read water. You learned, then you forgot, or chose to forget, built new way, took everything, honored nothing. We watched you change from balanced beings to cancer on planet, and we mourned, still mourn, because we remember what you could have been. The tape in my recorder clicked, side 1 complete. I should have flipped it, should have continued documenting, but instead I just sat there, processing what he was saying. That we were a fallen species, that we had once been something better, and had chosen to become something worse, and that the evidence of our fall, the testimony of our crimes, was being kept by witnesses we didn't even know existed. The bone-chilling part isn't what you are, it's what we are. That's what you wanted me to understand. He nodded. Yes, FBI agent questions Bigfoot, learns truth. Truth is not about Bigfoot. Truth is about FBI, about agents, about laws that punish some crimes but excuse others, about justice that works for some humans but not others, about system built to protect property, not people. You wanted to question me about my crimes, but my crime's simple. I kill predators. Your crimes? You create predators. You create systems that protect predators. You create culture that excuses predators. Then you act surprised when predators hurt people. You are not innocent, FBI man. Your agency knows where bodies buried, knows which powerful men are monsters, knows and does nothing. Because those men have money, have power, have connections. So you arrest poor man who steals food, ignore rich man who steals childhood. That is what you are. I wanted to argue, wanted to defend myself, my agency, my career spent putting away bad people. But I thought about the cases that never went anywhere. The powerful men we couldn't touch, the victims who weren't believed, the evidence that mysteriously disappeared, the complaints that were never investigated. He was right. We knew. We always knew. And we made choices about which monsters to hunt and which monsters to protect. What do you want me to do with this information? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Nothing, he said. That is what you will do. You will destroy this tape, will burn this notebook, will write report that says nothing found. Child trafficking ring eliminated. Case closed. You will protect me by pretending I do not exist. Because if you reveal me, what happens? Your kind swarms, captures, studies, cages, uses us, maybe weaponizes us, maybe clones us, maybe makes us into entertainment, or worse, makes us into excuse to ignore own crimes, excuse to make us boogeyman, blame us for disappearances, blame us for deaths, make us monster, so you do not have to face that you are monsters. No, better you stay silent, better you protect secret, better you carry burden alone. That is your punishment, and your redemption. Punishment for what? For being human, for seeing what your kind is and still choosing to protect them. Because that is what you will do. You will go back, will tell lies, will bury truth, will continue serving system that creates monsters, because that is what humans do. Maintain system, even when system broken, even when system evil. Because admitting system evil means admitting you are part of evil. And humans cannot face that, would rather anything than face that. The sun was fully up now, light streaming through broken windows, dust motes dancing in beams. And in that light, I saw him clearly for the first time, saw the intelligence in his eyes, saw the weight of centuries of watching in his posture, saw the profound sadness of a being who understood my species better than we understood ourselves. You're going to walk out of here. I'm not going to stop you. And I'm going to do exactly what you said. I'm going to bury this. Yes, you will. Because you are good man. Good men always protect evil system. Bad men create evil. Good men maintain it. That is most bone-chilling truth. Not that evil exists, that good people protect it, support it, serve it, while telling selves they are good. He stood, his massive frame filling the small room. Thank you for listening. Most humans would not, would shoot first, question never. You questioned. That is something. What will you do now? What we always do: hide, watch, survive, until we cannot anymore, until the last of us falls and your kind never knows what you lost, what wisdom you ignored, what witnesses you silenced. You will inherit Earth, briefly, then destroy it, and no one will remember that there were those who tried to warn you. He moved toward the door, paused, turned back. One more thing. You have daughter, yes? My blood froze. How do you? We watch, know you, know she is 15, know she is good person. Keep her that way. Show her different way. Teach her to see, to question, to not accept normal evil. Maybe she part of generation that changes, maybe not, but try, for her sake, for your sake, for sake of what humans could be, instead of what you are. And then he was gone, moving through the forest with that impossible silence, disappearing into the green shadows like a ghost, like a dream, like something that was never there at all. Except for the notebook, sitting on the floor where he left it. Testimony to crimes we didn't want to acknowledge. Evidence that someone had been watching all along. I sat in that abandoned ranger station for 3 more hours, staring at the notebook, looking at drawings of murders, rapes, abuses that no one had investigated, because no one knew about them, or no one cared, or no one wanted to pursue the powerful men who did them. Finally, I picked up the notebook, held it in my hands, the weight of it, the reality of it.
Thought about what would happen if I brought it back, if I reported what I'd found, if I told the truth about what I'd questioned and what he'd revealed. They would call me insane, would force me into psychiatric evaluation, would destroy my career, would confiscate the evidence and lock it away where no one would ever see it, would use it to justify a massive manhunt for Bigfoot, not to protect him, but to capture him, study him, use him, would turn him into a weapon or a propaganda tool or a distraction from real problems. Or worse, they would believe me, would use the notebook as evidence of monsters in the woods, would make him the villain, would blame unsolved murders on him, would make him the convenient explanation for every missing person, every cold case, every failure of our system to catch human predators. He had been right. The truth was too dangerous. Not for national security, for our collective ego. We couldn't face that we had been watched, that our crimes had been documented, that a species we considered primitive had been keeping receipts on our atrocities, that they had been protecting victims we ignored, that they knew what we were better than we knew ourselves. So I made my decision. I built a fire in the old wood stove, watched the notebook burn, page by page, 143 drawings turning to ash, 143 testimonies disappearing into smoke, evidence of human evil destroyed to protect both the evil and the witnesses to it. Then I destroyed the tapes, smashed the recorder, burned my notes, created a new version of events, found traffickers, confronted them, they resisted, in the fight they were killed, found children in cave, traumatized but alive, no other suspects, case closed, medal for me, justice for the victims, everyone happy except anyone who knew the truth. I filed my report, gave testimony, accepted the commendation, looked my supervisors in the eye and lied. Went home to my wife and daughter and pretended I was still the man they thought I was. The righteous agent, the protector, the hero. When really I was just another human doing what humans do best, maintaining comfortable lies over uncomfortable truths. My career continued for 9 more years. I got promoted, worked on high-profile cases, made arrests that made headlines. But every investigation, every interrogation, every closed case felt hollow. Because I knew what we were, knew what he had told me, knew what we refused to face about ourselves. I never went back to that forest, never tried to find him again, kept my promise to bury the truth. But the truth buried me instead. Slowly, year by year, case by case. Every child abuse investigation that got dropped because the perpetrator was wealthy. Every rape case that went nowhere because the victim wasn't credible. Every murder that went unsolved because the victim was poor, or black, or homeless, or otherwise disposable in our system's eyes. Every time I heard his voice. Good men maintain evil system. I retired in 1998. My daughter had graduated college. My wife was ready for me to be home more. I told them I was burned out, which was true. What I didn't tell them was that I was haunted by the question that being had posed. Was I a good man? Or was I just a functional cog in a machine that protected evil? 26 years later, I still don't know the answer. My daughter, the one he mentioned, is now 48. She's a public defender. Spends her life trying to provide justice for people the system has failed. Sometimes I wonder if he saw something in her future that I couldn't. If his words planted a seed that grew into her calling. If maybe, just maybe he was right that some people could be different. Could question. Could see. But mostly I think about what he said about good people maintaining evil systems. Because that's what I did. For 9 years after that interrogation, I upheld a system I knew was broken, enforced laws I knew were unjust,
Protected an order I knew was built on violence. And I told myself I was doing good work because I caught some bad people, even while knowing the worst people were protected by the very system I served. That's the bone-chilling truth he revealed to me. Not about Bigfoot, about us, about me, about every person who sees injustice and looks away, who knows the truth and chooses comfortable lies, who witnesses evil and decides that rocking the boat is worse than letting the evil continue. He told me we were the real monsters, that we destroyed everything we touched, that we created predators and then acted surprised when they preyed, that we built systems to excuse our cruelty and called it civilization, that we were watched, documented, judged by witnesses we didn't know existed, and that even when confronted with this truth, we would choose to bury it rather than face it. He was right about all of it, including the last part. I buried it. I'm still burying it. Even now, telling this story, I'm leaving out details that would allow anyone to verify it. No specific dates, no exact locations, no names except my own, which might not even be my real name. Because even in confession, even at the end of my life, I'm still protecting the comfortable lie over the uncomfortable truth. That being asked me one question during our interrogation that I couldn't answer. If you know your kind evil, and you serve your kind, what does that make you? I've spent 34 years trying to answer that question. The best answer I can give is this: it makes me human. Fully, completely, irredeemably human, capable of seeing evil, capable of understanding evil, capable of documenting evil, and then capable of choosing to protect it anyway, because the alternative, admitting my entire species is diseased and I'm part of the disease, is too unbearable to face. He told me that was the bone-chilling truth. Not that monsters exist, but that we know they exist, we protect them, we create the conditions for them to thrive, and then we call ourselves the good guys. That we're capable of building societies sophisticated enough to reach the moon, but not sophisticated enough to protect our own children from predators. That we're intelligent enough to understand what we're doing wrong, but too committed to comfort to actually change it. I questioned Bigfoot. What he revealed wasn't about his species. It was about mine. And the revelation was so disturbing that I spent 34 years trying to forget it. But you can't forget truth. You can only bury it. And I'm old now, sick, dying, so I'm leaving this testimony. Not because I think anyone will believe it, not because I think it will change anything, but because he was right about one more thing. Someone should know. Someone should remember. Someone should carry the testimony that we were watched, we were judged, and we were found wanting. They say Bigfoot is a mystery, a cryptid, a creature that might or might not exist. But I know the truth. He exists. They exist. And they're not hiding because they're afraid of being discovered. They're hiding because they've already discovered us. And what they found was so disturbing that they chose invisibility over interaction, chose extinction over exposure to what we've become. The real mystery isn't whether Bigfoot is real. It's why we're so desperate to find him. Maybe because deep down, we know someone has been watching. Someone has been keeping track of our crimes, and we can't stand the thought that our evil has witnesses who will outlive our ability to rewrite history. Or maybe we want to capture him so we can silence the last testimony to what we really are. Either way, I failed. I protected the system over the truth, protected comfort over justice, protected my career over my conscience, just like he said I would. That's the bone-chilling revelation. Not that Bigfoot exists, but that he was right about us, and we'll never forgive him for it.